Hello, you absolute legends. In March of 2026, the madman himself, the Slackinator, did something incredible. He beat the original Legend of Zelda on the NES without taking any damage or even a single hit. This feat capped off a multi-year-long project and was the 50th game on the NES that Slackinator has beaten in this way. In a series he calls Flawlessness, Slackinator's goal is to beat as many of the most classic and difficult NES games of all time in perfect fashion. No damage, no hits, no glitches, just pure skill. When it comes to no damage runs on the original Nintendo console, Slackinator is the GOAT. He has dedicated much of the last 6 years to this one purpose, and it's unbelievable what he has been able to accomplish. If you remember all the way back in 2021, I made a video that covered Slackinator's world first no damage run of Ninja Gaiden, a feat that was considered impossible for 30 years. And it seemed as though Slackinator's run awakened something in the global consciousness, because since then there has been an explosion of no damage runs not only for the NES, but for all of the retro consoles. If you search YouTube, you'll find numerous no damage runs for even the most difficult games, but something feels off. If you do search for no damage runs on retro consoles, you'll start to realize it's the same channels that keep popping up. Somehow, a relatively small group of YouTubers are able to complete a ton of games very quickly without taking damage. Some channels have hundreds of completions, and some of them are able to pump out a no damage run of a brand new game within just a few days. For me, this immediately raised some red flags. I've been following no damage runs for years, so I have a pretty good idea about how much effort goes into them. To beat these games in this fashion requires a ton of preparation and a lot of knowledge. You need to finely craft strategies to increase consistency as much as possible. But the way some of these channels play through these games makes no sense if you've ever seen a no damage run before. They take risks that are obviously unnecessary and counterproductive. They play as if they don't have a care in the world. They play as if they are using tools. In today's video, we are going to take a look at a bunch of different channels claiming to have completed no damage runs, and we are going to compare the strategies they use with those used by actual speedrunners. I've also invited on the man himself, Slackinator, to explain just how much thought and knowledge goes into some of these strategies when people try to beat these games without taking damage for real. I really hope you enjoy. Now, legends, one of the best pieces of advice I could ever give you is to always keep learning. Not only does it keep your brain young and sharp, but the more things you learn, the more opportunities you'll have later in life. But perhaps most importantly, with how technology is evolving these days, keeping the ability to learn is paramount. And that is why I'm a huge fan of today's sponsor, Boot.dev. Boot.dev is a platform that teaches you how to code. So if you've ever considered being a software developer, which allows you to make very decent money, this, in my opinion, is the best way to do it. Boot.dev is incredible because it makes learning to program as interesting and engaging as it can possibly be. Boot.dev turns programming into a game, where you earn XP, gain levels, and complete quests. There are tons of courses covering a bunch of different languages, and it doesn't matter if you're a complete beginner, the courses are designed so well you can jump in at any level. And you'll even get your own personal tutor called Boots. Boots is amazing at guiding you to the right answer instead of straight up telling you. This helps you retain information so much better, and it's also so much more rewarding. So if you want a career in programming or just want to learn for fun, or keep your brain sharp, click my link in the description or scan the QR code on screen and use code KARLJOBS for 25% off your entire first year on an annual plan. There is even a 30-day no questions asked money back guarantee, so there's absolutely no reason not to try it out. Usually, when someone tries to complete a no damage run for one of these infamous games, they tend to already be experts. For example, the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is well known for being extremely difficult just to complete, but it has been beaten perfectly. Back in 2018, the runner Skunky48 beat the game without taking any damage and without using any of these sub-weapons, which is incredible. But Skunky is the speedrun world record holder. Skunky performed his run live on Twitch. He had a webcam. He was playing on the original console. This is everything you would want to see in a legitimate run. Another speedrunner that has beaten Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles without taking damage or using sub-weapons is the Nest Master. And he did it without using any glitches, which makes the run even more harder because it's longer and you can't avoid any difficult sections. But again, in this case, the NES Master performed his feat live. He had a webcam. He performed the run on an actual console. And he also just happens to hold the glitchless speedrun world record. This is what legitimate no-damage runs look like. Now let's take a look at a different channel that claims to have accomplished this incredible challenge as well, TH Sticky. In this case, Sticky isn't part of the TMNT speedrunning community. Notice the stark contrast in presentation. There is no webcam, it's not performed live, and is performed on emulator. The emulator part is the most telling, because all of the channels that we are about to look at share the exact same characteristics. They are always performed offline, they only show the game footage, and they are all performed on emulator. In any case, viewers of this run were extremely impressed, with one viewer saying, "This is impressive, well done." To which Sticky replied, "Glad you liked it." Another viewer stated, "I was honestly convinced that a no-damage run of this game was impossible, that dam level especially." To which Sticky replied, "That dam really killed me a lot. It seems requiring pixel perfect, lol." Another user said, "That plant section where you almost guaranteed to get hit, I bet that took several attempts to master because I never managed to not get hit there." To which Sticky replied, "So several attempts, man. I really have no idea where the hitbox is, lol." Wait a minute, what? Beating TMNT on the NES is one of the hardest things you can do on the console, and this person is claiming he doesn't even know where the hitboxes are. This is impossible. Everyone who has legitimately beaten TMNT no damage knows where every single hitbox is. You need to know it in order to get through the entire game without taking damage. So what gives? Well, the answer to this paradox lies in a little Easter egg that Sticky has tucked away out of sight. I mean, if you check the video description, it gives the impression that this is a full playthrough. However, if you check Sticky's channel description, something I'm sure every single viewer always goes and reads whenever they watch someone's video, it says, "For avoidance of misleading, these are not meant to show off. Most videos, despite their full appearance, are segmented." Oh, so it wasn't a full playthrough at all. This person used save states, probably many times to get through every room, and then presented the finished product as a full playthrough. But don't worry guys, this isn't meant to show off, and this is in no way supposed to be misleading. Now let's turn our attention to something that should be celebrated. Captain Forehead's no-damage run of The Legend of Zelda sets the standard for what a tool-assisted no-damage run is supposed to look like. This is truly a thing of beauty. It has TAS right there in the title. In the description of the video, the very first thing it says is, "This is a personal tool-assisted speedrun." Bravo, Captain Forehead. Hats off to you, my good sir. If only the channel Retro Archive had the same integrity. Retro Archive is a huge channel with over 1,000 videos, with hundreds of them being no-damage playthroughs. It is simply impossible to complete this many challenging games without taking a hit this frequently. But just by looking at the gameplay of their 100% no-damage run of Zelda, it's laughable. When you watch a legitimate player like Slackinator complete the game without taking damage, it's totally different. You absolutely need to play safely or you will get hit. For no other reason than there are some areas in the game where you'll definitely take hit a certain percentage of the time. So you really don't have the luxury to just YOLO through the entire game, or it would take 1,000 years to complete. You can see Slackinator hide indoors often in crowded rooms and retreat when necessary. In Retro Archive's play, it doesn't seem to matter how difficult a room is, he just runs right out there like a hero, ducking every projectile effortlessly. And for no reason whatsoever, he seems to run right up to enemies and kill them from literally a pixel away. This is not realistic at all. And this is a 100% run, which is way harder than what Slackinator did, which was just to try and beat the game. Another ridiculous video is by the channel Long Playthroughs, who claims to have done Zelda 100%, no damage, Quest 1 and 2 back to back. Again, the gameplay is laughable, and there is no indication whatsoever on this video or their channel that this is a TAS. When people give compliments in the comments, they simply respond saying, "Thank you." They never even hint at the possibility that any save states or tools were ever used. Now I'm going to let Slackinator jump on once again to describe the Ganon fight, because this is one of those fights where you really know if someone knows what they are doing or if they are just faking.
So let's take a look at some of these no damage Zelda 1 playthroughs. This one's from Retro Archive, and he's at the very end of the game fighting Ganon. You know, this game is hard enough as it is. They needed to end the game with a boss fight where the boss immediately disappears. Zelda 1 was my white whale for almost 3 years. This game is so unfair throughout that you need to have a very good strategy going into the final boss fight. I think this is an hour and 40 minutes into this playthrough. I'm very curious to see what he has in store for us for his elaborate setup. Well, folks, it looks like he's just gonna blindly stab in all directions. I'm sorry. You don't have me fooled. If you're going to go into a 2-hour full playthrough of this game and be perfect everywhere, and then you're going to take the final boss and you're just going to randomly stab around, I'm sorry, I don't believe it. All right, we got another one to look at. The other one I want to look into is by Long Playthroughs, and this is actually 5 hours into this playthrough. He's doing both quests and is at the very end of the second quest. And to my understanding, Ganon does function the same way at the end of the second quest. And you're going to notice something distinctly different in his playthrough as opposed to the last one. One stab, perfect stab, perfect stab, perfect stab. He is stabbing perfectly on Ganon, but he's not controlling where Ganon is. So Ganon's still moving around randomly, but somehow he knows exactly where to stab. And I'm going to show you here in a second exactly how Ganon moves, and it'll make it apparent, and it'll make it kind of obvious that you can't just move around randomly and then have Ganon teleport randomly, and with Ganon being invisible, know exactly where to stab. You can't do it, and I'm going to show you why, and I'll show you how I did it. Here we are below Ganon's room, and I'm going to show you how this fight works. I'm using a ROM hack that speedrunners use, and it does something interesting. It keeps Ganon from disappearing. This is how Ganon looks if you could see him the whole time. It looks kind of ridiculous as he flips through the animations, but you can tell now when I stab Ganon, he pauses for a second, he becomes visible. This is what you see. And then he teleports to either the lower right or, oh, I got it on the second try, or the lower left. And when he teleports, he immediately starts moving, and he's going to move based off of where you are. And you can't really affect his movement immediately because you don't know where he's going to be, right or left. So you can't control him. What I do, and it's the way that I found to be able to beat Ganon pretty much every time, was to control him from the beginning. From the beginning, I'm going to walk in this pattern. In this pattern, I can keep Ganon moving in this square pattern. I can control him. Now, the other part of Ganon that's random is the fireballs. And if you're not controlling the fireballs, they can appear even a couple at a time if you're pausing the game because of the way the timer works. But what I would do is there's two. I would manipulate the fireballs to throw a strike. That's what I called it. You'll notice that Ganon is now throwing a fireball right down the middle. And because Ganon's throwing a fireball right down the middle, I know that when that fireball happens, I can dodge and stab Ganon. Then I use the whistle. What the whistle does is very important. It keeps Ganon from being able to teleport. So now I can dodge, stab, whistle. It's so much more feasible to actually be able to defeat Ganon that way. I just repeat that process and defeat Ganon. I control the fight the entire time, but it's because I really understand the game. This amount of knowledge is needed if you're going to be able to beat these games without damage. You can't just rely on luck, especially one of the runs was 5 hours long. You don't do that 5 hours and then just luck your way through it. If you're putting that much time into actually knowing how to beat the game and doing it and not splicing together a playthrough, you know exactly how it works. When I got to Ganon without damage in my playthrough, after 3 years, I beat him first try without getting hit because I know how it works.
Sometimes channels are adamant they don't use tools when completing runs, but then you find out their definition of tools is very convenient. For example, the channel Neat1Up uploaded a no damage run of Zelda, and he said in the description, "This is not a TAS." But when you read the comments, in response to someone saying save states are in fact TAS, he responded with, "I said in the description that this is not a TAS. Save states do not equal TAS. This isn't even a speedrun. I used a save state after I do a part of the game successfully. If I get hit, I reload the save state and I keep doing it until I do it successfully." Oof, who's going to tell him? I really hate to break it to you, man, but using an emulator in save states makes your run tool assisted. When it comes to Zelda 2, multiple channels have uploaded full no damage runs. A particularly funny one was uploaded by Uncle Captain. The description reads, "Is it possible to beat this game without being hit? I have completely beaten this game without getting hit. Loses no health and no lies. Perfect. Just perfect. This is one of the first Zelda 2 gameplay videos to beat this game without taking any hits and damage. I mean, he is really talking up this run. From the sounds of it, this run must be amazing." Bro, you've got to be kidding. He is saving and loading a save state literally every few seconds. There is a giant message on the bottom left of the screen whenever he does this. This reminds me of me when I had to play this game to make a video. I had to save a state every 5 seconds just to survive because of how hard this game is. My lord, if you're going to use a save state every 5 seconds, don't talk up your run so much and pretend that you've done something incredible. Now I'm going to let Slackinator jump back on and describe just how much knowledge and strategy goes into a single boss fight in this game.
Here we have some Zelda 2, everybody. This is one of my all-time favorite games, and it is a brutally hard, no-damage playthrough. We're going to look at the boss fight of Palace 4, which is the Karok boss fight. This boss fight has a randomly teleporting boss that shoots these things that you have to bounce, this magic you have to bounce back and forth. And it's just a very random boss, and he teleports. At the beginning, the boss is always going to spawn right at this pillar. But from there, there's 128 different possible patterns and teleporting locations. Speedrunners will run directly to the right corner and just crouch down, reflect the shots, and hope not to take too much damage. In a no damage run, that's really still the best option until a discovery was made while we were routing it. I'll get into that in a second. What does he do? So this is a channel called Long Playthroughs, I believe, and this is batty. So not only does he not stand in the corner like I would have imagined you would do, he makes some jumps and some movement that how? Like, why would he, what reason would he have even run this direction other than he's just running randomly? Yeah, so he turns towards him and then stands up and turns around to block. What is this? What is that? For one thing, some of the movements and some of the jumps in this are so incredibly close that the likelihood of this happening is just minuscule. And it's 40 minutes into the playthrough. Not only is it not likely to happen, no sane person would ever do this. A sane person sits in the corner and plays the odds. But we've made discoveries in this game that is actually being used in speedruns now that don't require us to play the odds. You're not going to do it this way. Let me show you how we would do it. I'm not going to go into the weeds and how the RNG is made in Z2. It is really complicated, but I will say every time a screen loads, there is a number that is injected into the RNG stream, and we know that number is constant. And by going in and out of rooms, we can keep injecting the same number. This doesn't allow us to completely control RNG, but it does allow us to manipulate it a little bit. The setup for Karok is to enter the room, leave the room, stab before you enter, leave the room. Stab before you enter, and then leave and enter 2 more times. What this elaborate setup does is it takes the 128 possible patterns and limits them to 4. Now there's only 4 different patterns that Karok can do, and we know by the second spawn of the pattern which pattern we're at, 3 of which we can just sit in the corner and Karok will never touch us. That's how we can do it without taking damage. We don't base it off of randomness and just run around the screen.
Battletoads is also a very difficult game, and the channel Master Long Player claims to have beaten it with no skips and no hits. Now this is not impossible, it's been done by multiple people before, but it is still extremely difficult. When I think of people who have beaten Battletoads without being hit, I think of the Mexican runner, who is a multiple-time speedrun world record holder. He even beat the Turbo Tunnel first try, blindfolded, live in front of thousands of people. This is one of the most incredible feats ever performed on the NES. I also think of D. Tysonator, who was the first person to beat the game without being hit, and he did that live. I also think of Slackinator, but all of these people have spent countless hours mastering NES games. They have all proven themselves time and time again. They all use webcams and perform their feats live. Then we go back to the Master Long Player, who also has apparently uploaded a no-hit run. But again, it's just gameplay footage and nothing else. Nothing in the title or description indicates this is tool assisted, and even when he gets praised in the comments for how amazing his skills are, he doesn't mention anything about the fact that this run isn't legit. But of course, once again, when you go and read his channel description, tucked away where no one will ever read it, he says, "Please note that I'm using emulators and their save features for most of the consoles. While I do own some of the consoles and sometimes play games on them, I almost always prefer playing on the emulator when recording. This channel is not about mad skills, no save states gameplay, and I never claimed it ever was." Metroid is also extremely challenging. Only a few people have ever beaten it damageless. One of those people is CHX42, one of the greatest Metroid players of all time. He has achieved the speedrun world record many times in the past, and in his upload of his no-hit run, he has a webcam and a hand cam, and his run is utterly mind-blowing. Truly, his knowledge of this game is phenomenal. Now compare that to the run uploaded by Retro Long Plays. There is no webcam, it's not performed live, and is performed on emulator. Nothing in the title or description would indicate that this isn't a legit run. In fact, if you read the description, you would think it was a legit run. It says this is a damageless playthrough. It's hard to interpret that in any other way. And in the comments, once again, Retro Long Plays is being showered in praise, which he simply hearts in acknowledgement and doesn't even hint that this run might be tool assisted. But lo and behold, in his channel description, he says, "Note that most playthroughs on this channel use save states, meaning that individual sections are retried until they are error-free for the final video." This is what these channels do. They know that people won't read the channel description, they title their uploads in a way that makes people believe they are legitimate runs, and if they are ever called out for using save states, they point to the channel description, which no one ever reads, and say, "See, I even said that I use save states, so I wasn't lying." Metroid has numerous obviously save-stated no-damage runs, and I'm going to bring Slackinator back on to explain one of the most difficult sections, and how he figured out how to get through without getting hit, and consistently.
Let's watch some Metroid. This is a playthrough of Metroid by Retro Long Plays. I want to point something out right here, right at the very beginning of this. This is enough for me to really question a playthrough. This doorway, and like a lot of doorways in Metroid, when they were level designing this game, I don't think they thought it out too well. A lot of doorways send enemies at you or even through the door as you're walking through it, and you will get hit, and there's really nothing you can do about it once you start going through the door. Now, there's some elaborate setups that we have to do to mitigate this damage. But in this case, Retro Long Play is just going to go through the door and hope. Well, this is a 100% playthrough at over an hour. I'm not going to play over an hour and then just cross my fingers that I don't get hit when you're probably going to get hit 90% of the time in this doorway. So that is a pretty big red flag for me. The rest of this is possible. But when they're going through in this way, which seems to be every little tiny thing going perfect, it makes me question, because I believe if you look at Retro Long Play's YouTube channel, they're making a lot of these no damage playthroughs, and they're making them one right after another, not showing any significant amount of time to be doing what he's doing right here. Is it possible? Sure, but it's not done just willy-nilly. Let me show you a video of someone that can do this. Here's a video from CHX42. He is an incredible Metroid player. And you'll notice what he's doing. He's actually freezing Metroids in this doorway. Like I said, there's some things that we do to mitigate the damage. He's going to load these Metroids into the doorway. Their entities are going to exist as the door transition is happening. Can you see him above my head? As the transition, those Metroids still exist, so none of those Rinkas can spawn right now until right now, allowing him to get through the doorway. This is the kind of thing that needs to be done if you're going to actually try to be successful at these. And now as you watch CHX42, unlike that last playthrough, he is on fire. This guy's been playing the game for like 20 years. Yes, this kind of stuff is possible, but not from a week's worth of play. These channels are pumping out multiple runs in very short periods of time, and it does not happen. It takes tons of skill or a very elaborate setup. Let me show you what I do. I do a setup that we called the Rinka Train to Mother Brain. Similar to CHX, I load Metroids into the doorway to keep myself safe and not getting hit in the doorway. And then we took a long time to understand how these red Rinkas were made and how they moved, because they make the bottom of the screen very dangerous, because they can spawn in at the bottom and hit you. And that's why you see CHX staying at the top of the screen. We noticed that at the beginning, before you scroll the screen, they do spawn in an order. There's 6 spawners here, and they'll keep doing a clockwise order through the spawners. That was very helpful to know where they were going to come from. The screen can only have 3 on it at a time, so once one leaves, another one spawns, but it uses that order. They also spawn in moving directly at your location when they choose to spawn, which was really helpful to know which direction they were going to move, and then they also spawn in with a speed based off of exactly how far you are away from the spawner. Using that information, we developed a strategy. It's elaborate. It takes a while to set up, but if we sneak through here, you'll notice that right now, I'm in a ball on the edge of this platform, and the next Rinka to spawn, once this one here moves off of the screen, the next Rinka to spawn will be out of this, which is spawner 6 is what I called it, and it's going to move towards me and at a speed based off of where I was. Now, I need to I'm going to freeze it, and then I need to rotate through all 6 spawners to get another one coming out of the same spawner. So we shoot 1, we leave 2 alive, there's 3, there's 4, we stun 5, and now we're waiting exactly where we were before, so that when this one leaves, we get another one coming out of spawner 6, moving the same direction and at the exact same speed. We freeze all of these. Now we need to get through that whole cycle again, but we're going to do it fast by going to the left, scrolling the screen and unloading some of those spawners and then moving back. Now we are back at it. We've got 5. Once we kill 5, came out at number 5, we're going to get 6, and we are in the perfect position to get another Rinka out of this spawner moving the same direction and the same speed. This was the Rinka train to Mother Brain. It was the only way to make the bottom of the screen safe because they randomly spawn at any point at the bottom. And I'm not as good as CHX. I can't stay at the top and make those miraculous timed shots and pausing. So now I can take and bring these guys all the way through to Mother Brain. And when I get to Mother Brain, there's one last trick. You saw it right there. I rolled off the edge and then went back. That scrolls the screen to eliminate 2 of the Rinka spawners, meaning when these 3 leave, it's only able to spawn it above me and below me. And in this way, I can stand on this ledge, shoot Mother Brain, roll off, use a bomb to blow me back onto the ledge, and shoot Mother Brain. I can repeat this process over and over again until Mother Brain is dead. And that is the 3 Rinka Circus.
Let's talk about Double Dragon. When I was a kid, I loved this game. Though of course, because the game is so hard, I was never able to beat it. In 2021, Slackinator became the first person to beat the game without taking any hits or any damage. And you can see when watching him play, there is a particular strategy he employs throughout the entire run. When facing off against enemies, you can see him moving up and down constantly. This is because if you aren't moving up and down, and an enemy is within range, if they do decide to perform a jump kick at you, you will be hit guaranteed. But if you're moving up or down when they execute that move, it can be avoided. This one technique is probably the most important one to know and use all throughout the entire run. However, when you watch some of the other channels who have claimed to have beat the game perfectly, none of them do this. Almost universally, they just stand there in front of enemies and spam the attack buttons, and it seems to work out. And this is true even for boss fights. They just stand there and spam attacks. I mean, in theory, this might be possible, but the odds are so low that a boss or an enemy won't choose a jumping attack for the entire run. Again, it would probably take 1,000 years to ever get a successful run. So it's clear they are using save states every few seconds so that they get perfect RNG. Another super obvious indicator that these runs are fake is the wall section in Mission 4, where bricks will randomly fly out and either damage you or knock you off. All of these fake runs get through this section perfectly. It's as if they already know exactly which blocks will slide out, but this is just impossible. I'm going to bring on Slackinator to explain how he gets through this section.
Okay, so let's watch some no damage Double Dragon. We're going to focus on, this is Echo and Julius. We're going to focus on this wall section of Double Dragon. Really notorious, random blocks, damage all the time. And you can see he starts out and he just immediately jumps, which I guess could be a strategy. You know, you're hoping to just jump your way through. Lucky it was a low block. But if his strategy is to jump, I'd almost think that his strategy is to jump, and he just walks there. But more than likely he's going to jump here at the beginning then, right? No, he waits. And then he jumps this block before it even comes out. So there's the visual. He's in the air. So he's jumping this block before it even visually shows that it's coming out. So how did he know to jump there? And then there's a block, it just came out. My brain would say, well, it's not going to come out immediately again, but in this case it does, and he knows and he jumps automatically. This is a good example of somebody that has foresight. You know, he knows what he's supposed to do before he would ever have any visual indication to do it. This screams, I save stated, I went through, I got hit, I learned from my mistakes, and now I can just jump exactly when I'm supposed to. Next up, we've got vehicle replay, I think is what it's called. Now, he's going to do a different strategy. He's going to wait. Now, this kind of makes sense. You're waiting for a block and, you know, wait and react, get a visual. But he's just going to run forward and jump at the end. He's doing another one of those jumps. But it could be that's his strategy. Wait for a block, run, and then just jump. But then when he gets to the second section, he waits for 2. Well, if he's using that as a strategy, why would he have waited for 2 and then just jump at the end? Similar to the other one, this just doesn't work. You're hoping for a pattern that this set of strategies, you're using the same strategy at the beginning and at the end. And if you don't get the pattern, if he doesn't get that exact pattern, he just takes damage. I also think this is kind of hilarious. I had the volume down.
With this area, with these blocks, and at this moment we will jump to avoid being attacked from below.
Oh, wait.
Perfect. We will continue
Perfect.
in this way.
So now let me show you how you would actually do this if you were going for no damage. Because with the knowledge of how the game works, if you play the game a lot, you can do it quite easily. We're not worried about patterns. The pattern is random. We're just worried about what we can do in any pattern to get through. And what we want to do is we want to wait for that second block that you just saw, right? There. When that second block comes out and it's on its way in, we know that we can jump. And what it's going to end up happening is we jump past the first set of blocks and the second set of blocks and land right before the third set. We wait for that second block again and jump when it's on its way in. And as long as your timing is pretty good, you can use this strategy to get through the wall without taking any damage. That's how you would actually do it.
I'll show you one really funny example. Just a few months ago, the channel Akko and Julius uploaded a no-death run of Ghostbusters on the NES. Again, there is no indication that this is tool-assisted, nor is there anything in the channel description. But look at how fast he gets up the stairs, which is for all intents and purposes impossible to do without getting hit. Alright, so this seems pretty fast. Let's compare it to the world record speedrun. Well, here the difference is pretty clear. How about we compare it to an actual TAS? The speed is essentially identical. This is without a doubt a tool-assisted speedrun. Now finally, let's trace our steps back to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The dam stage is one of the more notorious for not being able to get through without taking damage. I mean, people complain about not even being able to complete it in general, let alone doing it perfectly. When you watch speedrunners or legitimate players get through here without taking damage, they actually use specific strategies to turn off the water current, because if you don't, you'll be dragged into the seaweed almost guaranteed. And for those who don't really know how the water works in this stage, there are water currents that push you left or right, and there are special ways to turn these currents off if you know what you're doing. But I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritty details of how that's done. But all you need to know is that speedrunners know how to do it, and when they do no damage runs, that's exactly what they do. But the channel Nostalgia Forever also uploaded a perfect run, and not only does he not know how to turn off the water current, but he just flies through that section without a care in the world. I'm sorry to say, but you're not going to get through that section twice as fast as the best player in the world while dealing with way more challenging conditions. And then, as we always do, when we check the channel description, it says, "In the published videos, I adhere to the rules, passing without damage or without death. But there are exceptions." Well, please tell me, dear friend, what are these exceptions? It's amazing that they hide these cryptic admissions in the place that no one would ever look, and even when they do include this admission, it's always in the most vague way possible so that maybe they have plausible deniability. It couldn't be any more comedic. The moral of the story for today is, if you really want to see a no damage run of these classic games, which I think you should because they are genuinely incredible feats, search for people like like Slackinator or established speedrunners in those specific games. They almost without fail will have a webcam or a hand cam, they will be playing on original consoles, they stream their attempts live, and I would only ever trust these accomplishments when the evidence to support it is so high. Because truly, to beat these games without taking damage is a special achievement. It takes a ton of work, and in my opinion, only those who back up their runs with exceptional evidence should ever be the ones who are believed. A big thanks to Slackinator for jumping on and explaining some of these fights. Please go and support him on Twitch and YouTube.
Well, that was fun. I want to say thank you to Carl for letting me be part of this video. If you like no damage challenges like I do, check out my YouTube channel. That's where I have all of my completed challenges. If you are more interested in the process and you want to know exactly how it works, every single part of the process I stream live weekday mornings at 9 Eastern Standard on YouTube and on Twitch. Now, the current project I'm working on is Metal Gear on the NES. It's said that it can't be done. No one's ever beat it without damage, and it is impossible. Well, we'll just see about that.
Thanks for watching, you legends. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next video.